The Pogo contractions were very big 2020, 2021, 2022, but that's coming off now. And you're seeing the Pogo sector go back up. The BPO sector did have some declines, but they're very, very small, very small. The traditional offices actually contracted also quite significantly, but this is across many companies, big and small. So I just want to remind everyone of the Icon 2023 happening this Saturday in SM Aura. We've got 16 speakers, some of the best investor advisors you can ever get, and it's going to run from 9 till Sawa, I guess, basically on Saturday. Hope to see you there. And guess what? My portfolio is 50% vacant. And that's happening all over the world, except in Singapore, in India, and the Philippines. In India and Philippines because of the BPO sector.
You mentioned about places outside Manila, and we would have this conversation also in previous videos that you would give out certain areas that people could look at na tingin mo will it's not just emerging but would have the ability to have more development, hence more appreciation also in properties. Do you have that? If you could give people right now like 5 areas in the country that because of infrastructure development, because of also this large developers building townships, you think these areas will have better development over the next 5 years, and also you'll see more properties being built in those areas as well?
Let's talk principles first before we discuss specific locations. So the first principle is that I believe that as an investor in real estate in pesos, we have to have a basket of a portfolio. Yeah, prime and safe assets plus the speculative assets that will take long-term volatile development cycles. But because you're coming in cheap over a 5, 10, 15, 20-year period, maybe that will be worth something much more later. Okay? So the boring prime but very secure properties you should have in your portfolio. And what are those? Makati, Bonifacio, Alabang. Period. Okay? Makati, Bonifacio, Alabang. Period. If you're able to afford land, buy land. If you're able to afford a house, buy house. Or office space, or coffee shop, or hotel room na thrown into a hotel management pool. Whatever, basta just get property in these, whatever kind of property within these 3 districts.
You mentioned a couple of things. Condos not included anymore. Not
condo, residential, whether it's a house and lot or condo.
Got it. Okay.
And the condo could be office, could be residential. But please also, yes, you can buy from anybody, but I hope you are more discerning about who you buy from. So please check the reputation of the developer, because the reputation really determines the future longevity, sustainability of your investment. So these 3, because these 3 absorb the biggest demand for office, the biggest capital for residential. Everyone wants to live in these 3 districts. And anything you do, just like in the stock market, may liquidity siya na pag kailangan mong ibenta yung property, maraming gustong bumili from you. So, and then outside of these 3 locations, then I would say speculate in Cavite and Laguna. And yes, umakyat na yung presyo ng Cavite at Laguna, but I think hindi pa talaga na-price in yung full impact ng infrastructure. 5-6 years ago, ang daming perang nabuhos sa Cavite and Laguna because they were anticipating na, nag-umpisa na yung Cavitex, natapos na finally. Nag-umpisa na sila mag-dig para dun sa MCX, nag-umpisa na sila dun sa Calax. Okay? 5 years after, tapos na yung Cavitex, tapos na yung MCX. halfway done na yung Calax. Meron pang mga ibang dinadagdag ng mga routes and bridges, roads, LRTs all over Cavite, Laguna. And the middle class of Manila is moving there. Prior to this wave, ang bumibili lang ng property sa Cavite, Laguna is para gamitin for low-cost housing or factories. Yun lang. Both very cheap. They're after very cheap land. Now, you have New Valley and the typical home in Abreu, for example, the high-end village of New Valley is probably 50, 60 million. It's not cheap, you know? And then you have all these homes in Punta Fuego, in Batangas, and they're worth 100, 200 million now. I mean, ibang usapan yun. And so more and more capital is going to pour in there. The next level, paakyat pa lang yung Cavite, Laguna. And then, yes, there's always Cebu, but I would also look at Iloilo, Bacolod, and Bohol. I am very excited about Clark because Clark is going to transform Northern Luzon. It's going to make Northern Luzon so accessible. And that will be the gateway for investment in La Union, in Ilocos, in Pagudpud, in Baguio, in Kalinga, Apayao, Aurora, Baler. I just went to Baler at the hometown of the Angara family. And Senator Angara, if you're watching, hello. Thank you for hosting us there. Fantastic. It is so beautiful there. So beautiful. And the weather is so different there. It rains every night. It is so unique because it's one of the few places that I have been to in the Philippines na kahit summer, green na green yung halaman. Lahat, anywhere you go, everything is green. Hindi tulad dito sa other parts of the Philippines na pag summer, tuyo lahat ng bukid, tuyo lahat ng farmland, tuyo lahat. Ito, green na green, rich green. Because it rains every night. It doesn't really get too hot, I think, in that area. Those are really interesting places, and more roads are connecting it, more airports are connecting it, more balikbayans are coming back to these locations, saying, wow, this is finally happening. And you see it because there's a big construction boom in small hotels. You're not talking about 300, 600 room hotels, but yung mga 20 room hotels, 30 room hotels, yung mga mom and pop hotel Airbnb types that are really flourishing in these locations. So and it's coming. And then right now, Filipino food is becoming sexier. You know, it doesn't make you sexy, but it makes the food is getting sexier. But the guy eating the food is not getting sexy. Yeah. So I think there's a lot happening for these areas.
I get this question all the time, and it would be interesting also to see your insights on this. If it were you, or you would also cascade this to people, would you go for something that's more expensive, high-end, but just get one of it? Or would you get 2 of 3 mid-tier price na property, assuming maybe for a longer-term hold? From a tactical perspective, what would you do?
It's all about risk management. It's all about managing a portfolio. And just like what I said earlier, go for prime first. Go for prime first. And frankly, yes, one apartment in, let's say, the most expensive real estate condominium building in the Philippines is the Shangri-La at BGC. It's one of the most well done, one of the most almost perfect building. It's not perfect, but it's almost perfect. And at 400,000, at 400 square meters, that's 200 million, 220 million. At 600, 700,000 pesos, 200 million. I mean, you can buy huge tracts of land in, I don't know, Iloilo, in Ilocos, in San Vicente for 200 million. But why would you buy an apartment? Well, because anytime you need to sell, somebody will buy that from you. In a good time, 10 people will buy that from you. In a bad time, 10 people want to buy that from you at a very bad price. But yung holding power ng asset na yun, very, very strong. It will take a lot to kind of bring it down. Yung pag nabakante siya, maraming papalit doon. So yan yung that's what we mean by security. And when you are buying an asset there, very often the sellers to you are legitimate sellers. Hindi siya yung scammer na hindi mo alam kung fake yung title, hindi mo alam kung is-squat yung property mo. If you have big tracts of land in the provinces, how do you manage that? How do you secure that? How do you know that nobody's faking your title or nira-racket na yung property mo? So, I would prefer prime asset, and then after you get your prime asset portfolio, then you get your speculative portfolio. Just like, I guess, what's happening in the stock market, no? You have to have a portfolio of good blue chip companies that are secure and solid and giving you good yield. And when you need to sell, there's enough volume for you to get in, to get out anytime, at whatever price, at whatever scale. And the same with the property market.
I think what's interesting about the closer it is to the center, it's not just the liquidity, but its ability to store value. Because as what you've mentioned, there's a ready set of buyers also that you can somehow over the next few years know that it will be that price, and it could be easily also flipped to cash as well. You mentioned about BPOs, which is a very, very central revenue driver of the country, which is also driving office spaces. Prior to all of this, and even we were doing talks like this in 2019, you've mentioned about pogos also. Do you think it's at the tail end of the cycle for it, or will we see like a resurgence of it and they will go hand in hand with BPO in terms of office spaces as well?
As of May 2023, the year of our Lord 2023, the POGO sector is growing. And we're about to do 3 or 4 transactions that's about 100,000 square meters in size. So that's, so they're making a comeback. Not in the same velocity or fury as what they did in 2018, 19, but they certainly are coming back. The BPO will keep growing because they accumulated new record jobs, and they are the single biggest driver of office space demand in 2022. And by the way, just for everyone's information, 2022 was the 3rd best year of the office sector, many thanks to the BPO sector. So yeah, we were talking about work from home, we're talking about abandoning offices, all over the world. That's what's happening, except in the Philippines. The BPO contractions are very small. The POGO contractions are very big, 2020, 2021, 2022, but that's coming off now, and you're seeing the POGO sector go back up. The BPO sector did have some declines, but they're very, very small, very small. The traditional offices actually contracted also quite significantly, but this is across many companies, big and small.
If you try to look at how it is also, we were talking about this prior to recording. We looked at interest rates in the US and how it is affecting them as well. Whatever happens in the US also may have a ripple effect, not just in the Philippines, but globally. My question, I guess, is this: rates also in the Philippines are somewhat dependent on rates in the US as well. How do you see it play out, that as what we were talking, if it drags on at a high rate, you think there might be a larger effect here in the Philippines, or similar to what we talked about earlier, will remain resilient also, primarily also because of PPO's remittances, and then our banks are very, very good in terms of how they've been handling their balance sheets as well?
I think the central bank made massive headlines a few days ago when they said, "Oh, we're going to signal that we're not going to increase interest rates for the next 12 months." That's what they signaled, right? They didn't categorically say it, but they seemed to have signaled it, according to the headlines, which is totally opposite of the US. But the US said, we're going to have 1 more year of interest rate hikes. So nag-diverge na yung, well, decouple might be a strong word, but they diverged in opinion of what to do. And a lot of people will argue that the Philippines can't afford to do that long term, right? So interest rates will keep climbing. Now, the fact that the property market continues to hold today, 3 years after COVID, 18 months after interest rate hikes and inflation, is a testament that the savings rate of the Philippines is actually much higher than what everyone thought. And the household debt and private sector debt was actually much lower than what everyone thought. That's the only way you can explain why there are no massive default rates happening in the Philippines, despite an increase in interest rates by almost 2.5 times over a sustained period of time. Now, will it start to hurt going forward in the next 12 to 18 months? I think there's a good chance that more people will get hurt. But overall, we're coming from a very good place because the default rates in the commercial space is still very limited. Yes, some people kind of over speculated on their second car, their third car. They lost their second car. They gave up their first car. I don't know. Because matakot sila sa kotse. I don't know. Because they don't listen to people like you or me. You know, don't buy a fancy car anymore. You don't need it. It's a waste of money. But they gave up on their cars, so the foreclosure on cars is very, but it's a very specific portion of the market. I think ultimately uh, the next 12 months should be okay because the interest rates are being offset by extended payment terms, and the developers are also quite relieved because inflation is coming down from here on, and so that should make them less anxious when it comes to estimating how construction cost is going to move going forward. Kasi, in the last 24 months, grabe yung spike nung commodity prices and logistics prices. And right now, those things are coming down. So it's very good.
Got it. But is it safe to say also that if we endured the worst 2-3 years ago, and then we're coming out of that also right now, that it might be from a forward-looking perspective better already than what we endured as well?
I guess it's different because I can't imagine anything worse than COVID, to be honest. What the world went through, lockdown in your place, can't move, mobility restrictions. I can't imagine anything worse than that. But then, there's war, the Ukraine, there's this geopolitical mess going on in Taiwan, there's um, another year of interest rate hikes for the West. There's another inflationary, interest rates are climbing in the West because they can't seem to hold inflation. And so inflation is going to keep ravaging, which means that it's going to lead to more job losses. It's going to lead to migration of capital out of smaller banks into bigger banks where they will feel more secure. And all plus the geopolitical changes going on all over the world. It's not just in the US. It's happening in Canada. It's happening in Western Europe. Medyo, and then you throw in the impact of climate change, which is serious, which is relevant, which is quite damaging. The world is really in a very, very vulnerable place. And again, just like what I said earlier, the Philippines is really in a happy place. It's in great shape. It's in great shape, and it seems to be in a very, very safe place. And social stability is fantastic.